This is not just a country. This is the world's most urgent economic experiment. For decades, one question has haunted global boardrooms, kept policymakers awake at night, and defined the flow of trillions of dollars in investment. Where do you go when you can't rely on China anymore? The world has been searching for the next great workshop of the world, and now, it seems, it has found its answer. Stretching along the South China Sea, a nation of 100 million people is undergoing a transformation so rapid, so profound, that it is rewriting the rules of global manufacturing. This is the story of the Vietnam economic miracle. But is it real? Can this vibrant, chaotic, and ambitious country truly become the new China? Or is it about to become the victim of its own success? To understand the miracle, you must first understand the vacuum it is filling. Rewind to 2018. The United States launches a trade war with China. Tariffs skyrocket. For 40 years, corporate supply chains had been built on a single, unshakable principle. Everything leads to China. It was the world's factory floor. But suddenly, the cost of doing business there was becoming unpredictable, dangerous even. CEOs looked at their maps and saw a terrifying concentration of risk. All their eggs were in one basket. That basket was now in the crosshairs of a geopolitical superpower struggle. They needed a new strategy. They called it China plus one. Don't leave China entirely, but build a backup, a second source, a hedge. The great diversification had begun. And one country, above all others, had spent the previous 20 years quietly positioning itself to be that plus one. Vietnam's journey was not an accident. It was a masterclass in long-term planning. The seeds of this miracle were planted in 1986 with a policy called Joy Moi, renovation. It was Vietnam's own version of China's reform and opening up. The communist government began to loosen its grip on the economy, allowing for private enterprise and foreign investment. It was a slow, cautious dance with capitalism. But the real turning point came in 2007 when Vietnam joined the World Trade Organization. This was the signal to the world that Vietnam was open for business. It began signing a cascade of free trade agreements with the European Union, the UK, and most significantly, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP. These agreements meant that goods made in Vietnam could flow into the world's richest markets with little to no tariffs. The stage was set. The infrastructure, however, was not. The initial wave of investment was in low-tech manufacturing, textiles, footwear, furniture. But then, the first domino of the tech exodus fell. In 2020, Samsung made a bet that would change everything. It shifted the entire production of its flagship Galaxy smartphones from China to Vietnam. Today, nearly 2/3 of all Samsung phones sold globally are made in Vietnam. This was the proof of concept the world was waiting for. If Vietnam could handle the complex, precise supply chains of a tech giant like Samsung, it could handle anything. The floodgates opened. Intel poured billions into its largest chip testing and assembly plant in the world, right outside Ho Chi Minh City. Apple told its suppliers, Foxconn and Luxshare, to rapidly expand production of AirPods, MacBooks, and Apple Watches in Vietnam. Google moved its Pixel production. Microsoft started making Xboxes and Surface tablets. The Made in China label was being systematically replaced, product by product, by Made in Vietnam. But why Vietnam? What was the secret sauce? The answer lies in a powerful and increasingly rare trifecta of advantages. First, demographics. While China faces a demographic crisis with an aging population and a shrinking workforce, Vietnam is young. The median age is just 32. A massive, energetic, and increasingly well-educated labor force is entering the market every year, hungry for work. Second, cost. Minimum wages in Vietnam are roughly half of those in China's major industrial coastal provinces. For labor-intensive industries, this is not just a saving, it is a matter of survival. And third, location. Vietnam's long coastline, with deep water ports like Haiphong in the north and Kai Mep in the south, provides a perfect logistical hub for shipping to Europe, the US, and the rest of Asia. The physical landscape of the country is being remade to accommodate this boom. Drive from Hanoi to the port city of Haiphong, and you will witness an astonishing sight. Where there were once rice paddies and sleepy villages, there now stretch endless industrial parks. These are not just factories, they are self-contained ecosystems with their own power plants, housing, and logistics centers. They are run by giants like Singapore's Semcorp and Vietnam's own Becamex. Foreign direct investment has become the lifeblood of the Vietnamese economy, shattering records year after year. In the first half of 2024 alone, Vietnam attracted over $15 billion in committed FDI, a powerful vote of confidence in a shaky global economy. The government, while still nominally communist, has become ruthlessly pragmatic, obsessed with cutting red tape and creating a business-friendly environment. It is a partnership between a state desperate for development and global capital desperate for a safe haven. Yet, for all the gleaming new factories and soaring GDP numbers, the path to becoming the new China is fraught with peril. The miracle is already showing cracks. The first and most immediate challenge is infrastructure. The roads leading to the state-of-the-art port of Kaimep are often clogged with container trucks, creating traffic jams that can last for days. The national power grid is straining under the massive new demand. In the summer of 2023, rolling blackouts hit industrial hubs in the north, forcing factories to suspend operations and sending a shockwave through global supply chains. The very speed of the growth is overwhelming the country, its ability to build the foundational systems needed to support it. The second challenge is the middle income trap. Vietnam is brilliant at assembling things, but can it invent them? The country's economy is still heavily reliant on imported components. A Vietnamese-made smartphone might have its final assembly there, but the sophisticated semiconductors, displays, and sensors are shipped in from South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. The value captured by Vietnam is often the thinnest slice of the profit margin. To truly escape China's shadow and become an economic powerhouse in its own right, Vietnam must move up the value chain. It must develop its own intellectual property, its own brands, its own innovative capacity. The government knows this. It is pouring money into STEM education and trying to foster a startup culture. But building an innovation ecosystem is a generational challenge, not something that can be achieved through 5-year plans alone. The third, and perhaps most complex challenge is geopolitical. Vietnam is walking a diplomatic tightrope. Its economic success is largely dependent on deep integration with the West, but it shares a long, contentious border and a complicated history with China, its giant neighbor to the north. It cannot afford to alienate Beijing. At the same time, it is deepening its strategic and military ties with the United States, which sees Vietnam as a crucial counterweight to Chinese expansion in the South China Sea. Vietnam is masterfully practicing what analysts call bamboo diplomacy, bending with the wind, but not breaking. But in a world increasingly divided into competing blocs, maintaining this delicate balance is becoming ever more difficult. One wrong move could jeopardize the entire economic project. So, is Vietnam the new China? The answer is both yes and no. It will not, and likely cannot, replicate China's sheer scale and dominance. China's population is 14 times larger. Its domestic market is a behemoth. Its infrastructure, for all its problems, is far more developed. Vietnam will not become the world's only factory. But it is rapidly proving itself to be one of the world's most critical and reliable alternative factories. It is not replacing China. It is providing the diversification that global business so desperately needs. The future it represents is not one of singular dominance, but of a more distributed, more resilient global supply chain. The Vietnam economic miracle is real, but it is a different kind of miracle. It is a miracle of agility, of pragmatism, and of strategic positioning in a fragmenting world. The motorbikes are still roaring through the streets of Hanoi, but now they are increasingly joined by the silent electric vehicles of the future, many of them assembled just down the road. The workshop is open. The world is watching.